Heading for rockier times? With President Donald Trump set to return to the White House in weeks, questions are swirling about the future of China-U.S. relations. Chinese President Xi Jinping has reaffirmed China's readiness to engage in dialogue, expand cooperation, and manage differences with the U.S. side, while outlining China's firm positions. So what lies ahead for the world's two largest economies? How is China preparing for Trump 2.0? And what about people-to-people exchanges? I'm joined by Professor Da Wei, Director of the Center for International Security and Strategy, or CISS, at Tsinghua University here in China, a prominent scholar on U.S.-China relations. Professor Da, welcome to The Point, and good to have you on the show for the very first time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Liu Xin, for having me. Great honor.
Oh, it's my honor. The pleasure is shared. Let's focus on people-to-people exchanges, because that's where you are very active and you have done a lot. What is the current state of people-to-people exchanges in terms of, for instance, students or tourists, to your knowledge?
Yeah, to use one word, I will say recovering. Of course, the China-U.S. people-to-people tie has always been very strong, but it's been influenced negatively by, of course, the pandemic and also the, relatively tense geopolitical, situation between the two countries. But after the end of the pandemic, particularly after the San Francisco summit between the two presidents, I think it's recovering. We, as a scholar, I'm receiving more visitors from the U.S. I myself traveled to the U.S. for 7 times this year already.
7 times?
7 times. After pandemic, 10 times already.
Wow.
So, and we have more direct flights. And the American students, the number is very low, but it's growing. I think.
Where are we in terms of Americans?
It depends on the criteria. The U.S. Ambassador Burns said he told me this June it's about 840 or 50, but Chinese Foreign Ministry say 3,000. Okay. So I think it depends on how do you define what is American student study in China.
So even if it's 3,000, that is like 1/100th.
Yeah.
Of the number of Chinese students in America.
And also, let's say 10 years ago, the U.S. used to have about 15,000 students here. So it's very limited. So it's recovering, but we do need more time, longer time, to try to put us in the position that we used to be. It's still a long way to go, I will say.
Yeah. Well. During the San Francisco meeting between President Xi and President Biden, there was this announcement of China inviting 50,000 U.S. students over the next 5 years to come to China and study. I guess when China make this kind of announcement, there will be facilitation in terms of policy, in terms of visa, for instance, and there are also scholarships such as YES. I'm sure you know this better. Yes. Yeah. So what is the progress of that plan? Is that potentially hitting some kind of obstacle as the transition takes place in the White House?
I think so far so good, I will say. Of course, I'm not a government official. I don't know the accurate, precise progress, but I was told that my information is it's going well, and they already accomplished the goal of the first year, so that's good. But of course, we don't know what will happen next year or next 4 years. It's a long-term thing, but I'm quite confident.
Is there great enthusiasm in terms of young people from America wanting to come to China, at least to see for a period of time for themselves?
I think the enthusiasm is lower comparing with 10 years ago. I think that's the reason why President Xi take that initiative. I think there are different reasons. I mean, the big background is actually in the United States that young people's interest in foreign countries, regions are declining for whatever reason, or in the university, the area study, regional study is declining. So this is the basic background. It's not about China, it's about almost all the countries. And particularly for China, there are a lot of concern over like a security thing. There are some gossip in the U.S. and particularly the State Department still have the travel warning. So when they put that there, some parents in the U.S. may say, will my kids be safe traveling to China? So we live here in China. We know that China is probably the safest country in the world. But I think we need time. We need time to give people more confidence to, when those students are here, I think when they return to the U.S., they will tell their classmates, their friends, that what China is, then maybe in the future I think we will have more visitors.
What would you say to the people who are skeptical about China or even who are critical about China, thinking that China have stolen their jobs, have stolen their IP, have stolen their manufacturing? What would you say to them that China offers opportunities besides elements of competition?
Yeah, I think this world is, one of the nature of the world is change. This world keeps on changing. It's always change. Globalization, of course, is a change. AI will be a change, right? So when we're facing a changing world, the change will create some new opportunities, but probably it will also take other opportunities out. So like globalization, some factory may move to China or some other places, Mexico, other countries. But at the same time, it creates some new jobs in the United States.
For instance?
Service sector, like finance, education. The US can more focus on financial service, education, innovation. I think those are the strong part of the United States. So we are facing this change. I think what we should do is not to stop the change, but how to adapt to the change. I think this is the key. A factory move away. Yes, China, now many factories are moving out of China, maybe to Southeast Asia country, to Africa. So we will face the same thing. So I think the individuals and the government need to work hard to try to adapt to those changes rather than just complaining the change and try to stop the change. I don't think that's a very smart approach.
Well, a lot of Americans are really complaining about high prices, high living costs, about their jobs, about the loss of manufacturing jobs especially. Is China a part of the solution?
Particularly for inflation, China is very obvious. China is part of the solution, right? China always exports relatively inexpensive goods to the United States. And actually, China is part of the reason why the ordinary American have very high quality of life. And beyond that, actually, even with the high-tech industry, we always say the American side are very good at from 0 to 1, and China is very good at from 1 to 9.
Because of its market size?
Yeah, and also manufacturing capability.
Okay.
Yeah, from 0 to 1 means innovation. Yeah, innovation. So if we combine these two, it's perfect that from 0 to 9, you have two countries are very good at both. But if we decouple, then the US, some Americans believe they can do from 0 to 9. I think it's hard. To be honest, I think I travel a lot in the United States. I don't think bringing manufacturing job back to the US is very easy. I'm not saying it's totally impossible, but I will say it's extremely difficult.
China has definitely said that China's goal of having a healthy, stable, and sustainable relationship will not change. China has said its principles of mutual respect, of peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation will not change. It will resolutely safeguard its bottom lines. Basically, its interest in sovereignty, security, and development interest, and its commitment to people-to-people friendship will remain changed. How do you look at China's tone in preparation to President Trump going back into the White House? What do you read out of these messages?
Yeah, I think first I need to say those messages are very genuine. I myself also agree with that for several reasons. First, the biggest reason is I think inside China we do have some kind of consensus, like globalization is good for China. I think majority Chinese agree with this. Of course, it has its disadvantage, the dark side, but generally speaking, it's good. And solid, constructive US-China relations is good for China. China can benefit from that. I think this is a consensus here. We may argue for different approach, but generally, globalization and also constructive China-US relations, and also, of course, constructive China-Europe, but I mean
Why is President Xi still being so calm and respectful, having seen what the U.S. did, suppressing China's high tech, for instance, selling weapons to Taiwan? These are red lines, but why is China still saying this relationship has been stable on the whole?
Yeah, I think the problems you mentioned are basically part of maybe one part or two parts of China-U.S. relations. China-U.S. relations is a very comprehensive one. So what I'm talking about, the supportive attitude to China-U.S. relations, is a general assertion. I will say we agree, we support that, and there is a consensus. I think China is not divided on those issues. So this is very important reason. Another reason is actually this is the second Trump term, right? This is the second time. So President Trump is not new for China. We already know what he did in his first 4 years, and then we follow him what he said in the during Biden administration. Now he is back, and he is advocating some policies, though different from the first term, but I will say quite familiar. So the mindset, the logic basically are similar. So I think China is more prepared than the first time. For the first time, it will be a surprise, right? You see some U.S. presidential launch a trade war. So that's a surprise. But this time, I think psychologically, we are more ready. And then I think the conclusion is we think that's the way, what President Xi said is the only solution we can have on our side. Try to maintain the stability. Of course, at a tactical level, if you do something bad, of course, I will revenge, I will retaliate, of course. But we keep it as not an overall issue. We keep it as to limit its sphere of the impact and try to seek the best solution.
Let's leave it there. Thank you so much, Professor Da Wei, Director of the Center for International Security and Strategy of Tsinghua University.
Thank you for having me.